Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. Here we have Lucas on a Grixis Delver list, leading out with that ideal opening of Delver of Secrets versus Pilesuzon Hogaak, with perhaps his ideal opening of a Stitcher Supplier that actually gets Force of Willed. A play showing Lucas's familiarity with the matchup and the respect that those early turns demand. He has another Force of Will, and is able to brainstorm to put an instant on top, ensuring that Delver flips and the clock begins. Thought sees as well. Sees a couple of Bridge from Below, Careful Study, Altar of Dementia. And this hand looks very well contained here so far. Altar of Dementia, and that actually is going to be Lucas's perhaps a last interaction here. It's just a race from here. He Force of Wills the Altar of Dementia. Now a Gravecrawler and a Hedron Crab. So not exactly winning the race there. Lucas considering whether or not he wants to use this Brazen Borrower's bounce ability. He declines to do so, instead brainstorms, and he's got Force blue card for whatever else Kyle may have. We've got a Bloodghast and now Landfall trigger. Gets a Bridge from Below into the graveyard. And yet another land off of this Marsh Flats. Gets a Bloodghast. And Hogaak is being cast. Wow. I mean, that's actually pretty crazy. This is through a Force of Will and a Thoughtseize. Just two more attacks left to close out with this Delver. He just has to survive two more turns. Perhaps Brazen Borrower is going to buy the time and get this Hogaak out of there. He kind of has to, because it's literally lethal if he doesn't. So this Brazen Borrower going to go ahead and bounce the Hogaak. But unless he has some type of burn. Oh, and it's Magmatic Sinkhole Daggers. It's a kind of burn, but it doesn't go face. If that was a Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, you name it, anything that could actually go face and he'd be fine. Oh, it's a Bedlam Reveler. I thought it was Magmatic Sinkhole. And Once Upon a Time. Bloodghast can come back if he has a land here off of Once Upon a Time. And that would be lethal. I'm not sure. Does he not have a land in those five? Oh, wow, he doesn't. That's crazy. That is crazy. The Once Upon a Time whiffs, and Lucas manages to hold on that Bloodghast in the graveyard, not able to come back to do the lethal damage. If Kyle swang there, one block would mean that Lucas would take 4 and go down to 1. So Lucas hanging on to actually win that game. Incredibly close despite Thought Seizing and Force of Willing. Just shows the resiliency of this Hogaak deck and how dangerous it is. I mean, that was right down to the wire despite what perhaps might have been a near optimal draw right up until the end. A burn spell would have been nice. But that is one of the issues with Grixis versus, say, blue-red Delver. It doesn't have as many cards that will help you reach the finish line that full turn earlier. It does have your lightning bolts, but that is about it. Once you start looking at like Kolgan's command, that tends to stray more into the control lists as compared to Delver. So many different archetypes right now in Legacy. I feel like the Hogaak deck is really not played that often relative to kind of its power level. It's still a somewhat new deck in the format. Suffers a little bit of the dredge phenomenon in that it feels very different than playing traditional Magic the Gathering. Very often by turn 3 you're not even using your mana anymore. You know, those first couple of turns you're setting up with things like Careful Study, Hedron Crab, Stitcher Supplier, using your Cabal Therapies, which of course don't require mana if they're being flashed back, but you may be casting them and getting double value out of the card. And I'm not even convinced that this is the optimal build at this point. I believe the build that Pyle's running has a couple of Once Upon a Times in it. And he's talking about the creator of the deck's thought process on that. And it was actually that you don't want multiple grave crawlers. Grave crawler is totally fine once you get the ball rolling. Alright, so Stitcher Supplier here for Hogaak. Lucas with his Delver on turn 1. So both players again with fantastic openings. We'll see if this Delver is going to have the support of a Brainstorm to flip, or if it'll just be up to the cards. Hedron Crab and Force of Will preventing what would have been 6 more milling, but the Stitcher Supplier resolving anyways. Now Lucas has a Surgical in hand. Offers up the trade with the Delver. Looks like a Plague Engineer at the front of the hand. We've got a fetch into Young Pyromancer. Both decks making ample use of dual lands. Grixis likely pleased to not have to worry about non-basic land hate. We do have the autofocus on in this video. I apologize for that. Got the draw step leading into Altar of Dementia. And now a Surgical hitting the bridge from below. I don't know that I agree with the timing of this play. I may have waited for a Stitcher Supplier to be sacrificed. Let me know how you would have played that in the comments. It could potentially allow Pyle to sacrifice a Stitcher Supplier at a suboptimal time. Perhaps leaving him unable to convoke Hogaak. You can put the bridge trigger on the stack and then exile the bridges, and they will not get any bodies. Here we have Cabal Therapy now. And sees Bedlam Reveler and Plague Engineer. Landfall happening here with the Hedron Crab. And Gravecrawler coming in, sacrificing to the altar. The fetch land, enabling even more mill. And it looks like Vengevine may become very important here. Casting another Gravecrawler. And time for an 8/8. Hogaak has entered the battlefield. Lucas has Bedlam Reveler in hand. And he's going to go ahead and swing Pyroblast. That can, in theory, hit Hedron Crab and Careful Study. Though it may be a little too late by the time that actually comes online. Here, that's just going to result in... Oh, and he didn't sacrifice to Altar of Dementia. I'm actually a little surprised by that. I would have thought getting more Vengevine into the graveyard would have been welcome there. So not sacking. Gravecrawler being sacrificed. It looks like that may have just been an oversight then. The second Gravecrawler cast. And we've got a lot of milling going on. Vengevine's coming in. Looks like I may have miscounted the Gravecrawler castings there. So they come in. 16 coming toward Lucas. He's going to need to block. Hogaak not easily thwarted as he has trample, but the Vengevines can be held off. Gravecrawler coming back. And, I mean, at this point he could actually cast a Hogaak if he's got another one in the graveyard just to give it quasi-vigilance. He's going to go ahead and sacrifice. It's a mill. And he mills Lucas. I mean, I think he's fine no matter what here. Very little risk. Lucas's mana base not going to allow him to really play out of this. He does have 6 in the air, but the board state has gotten completely out of hand, which is really not acceptable for Delver. You really want to get down like a single Delver and kind of restrain your opponent, but this deck proving to be too difficult to restrain. And even without Bridge from Below, we're seeing a little bit of what the Hogaak deck does. Typically, if you have Bridge from Below from here, it'd actually just be a game over scenario. Hogaaks would luke into each other, creating a couple of zombies each, and then you'd be able to mill yourself to the point where you could then start milling your opponent, a kind of one-hit KO combo finish. But that was not necessary, as just going to get there anyways. In a matchup seeing good draws from both players, it looks like Hogaak maybe just straight up favored in this matchup. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.